What is up, fight fans? I am Jason Burgos for Sherdog.com, and I'm joined by the latest big-time free agent addition to Bellator. He's an Ultimate Fighter Season 19 winner and a man who earned a spot as one of the best light heavyweights in the world during a 15-fight stint in the UFC. He makes his Bellator debut at Bellator 251 against Uber veteran Melvin Manhoef, and that is the one they call Overtime, a.k.a. Corey Anderson. Corey, thanks for the time to talk this debut fight coming up.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Now, first, I wanted to ask you about just your health, because you went through quite a lot following your loss in February, from poor work by the commission doctors in New Mexico to going through a bunch of tests and doctors to figure out the cause of the blackout you had soon after the fight. So how are you feeling months removed from it all? And did all of that stuff kind of like change your opinion on doctors and has made you kind of just weary now of trusting doctors' advice now?
I feel great now. Once everything was cleared and we got the final test done, it was all okay. And final verdict was pretty much just a concussion. You know, I was doing too much to have a concussion. Wasn't hydrated. Just blacked out. But it definitely made me have a different verdict. Not like on doctors, period, but just on, my fighting career, one, and my self-health. You know, now I have a family. It's like I got to be more worried about my health than the doctors are. You know, I got to get a second opinion on things to make sure everything is okay before I go dilly-dallying and doing whatever I'm doing in my life and mess around and don't come back from what I was doing. So that was probably one of the biggest takeaways. And the other thing was just, now I got to go out there and implement my plan. We shouldn't fight like other people. There's no reason why I should have been striking with Jan Blachowicz. When the first time I beat him clearly because I just straight wrestled. And the next time I felt, I could strike with this guy, and I was playing in his world. I got caught. So just got to go out there and stick to my game plan and do me.
Part of this decision to ask for your release from the UFC was about coming to the realization like that you just talked about, and also just needing to make more money, secure the future, those kind of things, the health, all these kinds of things. And more so than you were doing in prior contracts. Now, at 31, with a deal in Bellator, making more just to fight than you were just to win in the UFC, is there any regret you didn't come to this realization about your health, about your money-making earlier, or would you not change anything?
I wouldn't change it. You know, I think I needed that loss to Jan to put me here. That's what – if I didn't have that loss, I probably would – I wouldn't have looked at it the way I look at life now. You know, before, like, I'm just leaving. It would have been more money, but at the same time, I would have been eager to – the more money is always nice. But at the same time, I would have thought I left before testing my potential. You know, I just left for the money. But, man, what if this? I could have got the opportunity, this and that. But after being there for 7 years, 15 years, I saw the way my road was going with the UFC. Everybody knows me and the UFC, we never been a buddy-buddy relationship. We butt heads a lot. And it was like, with all of that happening and coming off a recent loss, it was kind of like, do we stick around and just go through this whole thing again for a little bit of no money? Or we can go make some money in a company that's going to show us some love and appreciation and be happy where we are. You know, to say I wasn't happy my whole career in the UFC, that would be false. You know, probably up until the last year and a half, 2 years, up until I voiced my opinion against John Jones, everything was good. But once I did that, it's kind of like the block started falling on top of me. It's constantly dodging, trying to avoid to climb my way to the top. You know, and now it's just kind of like it's a fresh start. I don't have to worry about that anymore. And
I'm glad you brought up just butting heads with the UFC recently, because that's where I was going to go next. And even a recent butting heads after you already left. When asked about your release, Dana White said you could be more competitive in Bellator, which you responded to by saying, it doesn't bother me that he's still lying on my name. Anyone who knows me or knows MMA knows this isn't true. But what doesn't sit right with me is the people I consider close to me who have power that knows this isn't true are sitting quiet. Just know I see you. Could you elaborate on those people you feel are being quiet? Is it people in the promotion, fellow fighters, or something else?
I mean, some of everybody. People in promotion, people that have met me that have higher power, you know. It could be it's a whole bunch of people that know, but at the same time, it's water under the bridge now. I'll address that with those people. The people that know, like I said, I see you. The people that saw that post, they reached out. They knew exactly what I was talking about. And we squashed it, you know. It came to terms, and I understand where they're coming from. They understood where I was coming from. And just like I was saying in the whole thing, it's business. And at the same time, where they were at, why they weren't saying things, the reason why people weren't speaking up, because it's a business. If they speak up, it might mess up their business. And, at the same time, as a businessman, I understand that. But I know growing up the way I've always been super loyal. And I've always that person, like, don't tell me somebody talking trash about me. Tell me what you said to them. If you know me, don't tell me somebody talking trash about me. What did you say? And that's how I've always, and I'm still that same way. But not in the business world. It's hard to find people like that because people are scared that it's going to backfire on them. And like I said, I completely understand. But when Dana said that and my wife sent it to me, I was hot. I was heated because I searched up and down the internet and I didn't see any of those people saying anything back. But when I announced my release, I see a lot of people in the higher ups and people from other podcasts and other medias that I already talked to saying, oh, man, this is a good thing, blah, blah, blah. Corey left. He says this, he says that. And then when Dana said something, it was like crickets from everybody. So I address those people, and I understand where they're at. Don't want to ruin their business, so can't be mad at it.
Now, I wanted to since you brought up when you were outspoken about John Jones, how it changed things. I wanted to get your perspective because you've been at the highest levels at the UFC, unlike a lot of people. So I want to get your perspective on this and that. In November, there seemed to be a bit of animosity, all this stuff. Also with the Johnny Walker, and Dana White had a lot to say about you feeling, also calling it crybaby shit. Now, I wanted to get your thoughts on just the perspective. Do you think the UFC or maybe Dana White treats fighters of color differently, especially at the highest levels? Same could be said, Tyron Woodley, he was not, marketed hard as a champion. Same could be said right now for Usman. Demetrius Johnson, arguably the best fighter on the planet, was traded for not equal value. Tony Ferguson recently alluded to feeling treated differently, maybe because he's Mexican. The company has looked the other way on Colby Covington's comments. And now last week, Leon Edwards was pretty much strong-armed into a fight with Chimaev by getting removed from the rankings for inactivity. Like, do you feel there's a difference in how maybe black fighters, Spanish fighters are treated when they openly speak about their unhappiness or their value in the UFC compared to the fighters that are not of color?
I mean, I'm not going to go into it as it's a color thing. I'm going to go to it as the fact it's the people that's making them money. It's the ones that's just getting people to talk, like Kobe Covington. He got the Trump people that's behind Trump. All the MAGA people, they all come to the UFC because of Kobe Covington. They're all huge fans of him, so that's bringing them money. Yeah. Anybody that's putting money in their pockets, they're gonna, we're not gonna say anything. We're gonna let them make us money. But when somebody like me or Leon Edwards, people that aren't known, people that aren't living flashy on Instagram, they're not boasting, they're not doing stuff, getting in trouble, the things that some of the top elite fighters that when they fight, the people don't really care to see them. Yeah, they're some of the greatest ones in the world, but the people don't pay to see us. So for us, it's kind of like if they say something, we're going to shut them down. We're going to make sure we let them know, like, you're not buttering our bread enough to be running your mouth like that. But when you got guys like John Jones setting records, it's like, look at John Jones' all history, all the trouble he's been in and everything. He keeps coming back, but then you see somebody else getting something similar or somebody else pop up, fail a drug test, they getting released. Somebody getting in trouble is like, oh, they got a whole press conference. Oh, we feel like this needs to happen. It's about who's buttering the bread, who's making their ends meet, who's making their pockets fat. And if you ain't doing that, like, what do you bring to the table for me? So why would I say anything? Yeah. I remember when everything happened with me and the John Jones and the UFC, that's pretty much what they said. When it was the PI, it all started with the PI. We had to make our schedules to work out. And that's pretty much how the last person I talked to everybody in the organization. And then it came down to the end, like, I made my schedule ahead of time, so why am I getting kicked out of the PI for them to come? And then the last person got on the phone and said, well, I'm sorry, Mr. Anderson, but this is John Jones. Nothing we can do. And hung up the phone. And that was it. And that right there is when I realized, that's when it hit me. It's like, if you don't sell tickets, you're not breaking records, you're not doing all this stuff that's going to make them money, you really don't matter. And after Johnny Walker, the needle moved a little bit. And then the Jan fight, if you see, even after he beat me, the needle didn't really move for him until John relinquished his belt. Then all of a sudden he got the opportunity. And I knew, like, even if I beat Jan, I possibly would have been next to a title fight. It depends. But at the same time, the bread wouldn't have been buttered anymore for him. It wouldn't have made it no tastier to him. So I would have been getting the same treatment. And the fact that I lost, I felt like now it's really going to be an uphill battle. And I guess I'm not going to say it's everybody in the UFC, because I've met with some of the people, I met with Mick. I've met with Hunter. You know, good people. But at the same time, the one thing they told me before going into the matchup for Johnny Walker, it was like, the reason you're not getting a title fight yet, there's no doubt you're one of the best. That you're probably one of the best challengers for John Jones, but the needle doesn't move when we say your name. So we got to get people behind you before we can make that happen so we can sell it. And like I said, from a business aspect, you understand that. But as a person that worked his ass off, so if I beat that person, I beat this person, I should get that spot. It rubbed me the wrong way. And then, like I said, and towards the end, after the last fight, when you just put all the pros and the cons, it was like, let's just go somewhere else and start over.
And based on what you're saying, too, about even if you would have beat Jan, it makes me think of Leon Edwards is a guy that probably deserves the title shot. He was only offered one, like, on super short notice, which he couldn't do because of the pandemic. Everyone's talked about how slow they've dragged their feet on Aljamain Sterling, who's super deserving of a title shot. Now they finally put it through. Do you feel like even if you would have beat Jan, they would have either really tried to drag their feet looking for somebody else, or maybe even not have given you the title shot?
Like I said, it's kind of wishy-washy on that because at that point, the beef between me and John that got so big, people wanted to see it. They wanted to see that barn burn. They wanted to see what was going to happen. Is Corey all talk? Is he going to be able to bring it to John Jones? Or can John Jones go out there and spank Corey like he do everybody else? You know, there's people that wanted to see it happen, to see me lose, and there's people that wanted to see me happen, the blue-collar folks, that wanted to see John Jones finally get a taste of his own medicine.
Yeah.
And it was so at the time, then the Dominic Reyes fight happened a week before, and it was kind of, again, that was another reason why I went out there and fought the way I did. It was like, I have to go out here and put an exclamation point on this to get this title fight. If I go out here and just win the way I do, there's no way they give me a title fight. They're going to run it back or down. I got to go out here and do something fancy and flashy like I did with Johnny Walker, and it cost me. But as for in Bellator, I don't have to worry about that. If I go out here and win, I move forward. I move up. Do I get a title shot next or one after? I don't care. But I know I'm moving forward in the right direction because I did what I did to get a victory. I don't have to sell tickets.
Yeah. Now, for this debut in Bellator, I can only speak for myself, but I was really surprised to see you matched up with Melvin Manhoef. I expected, an opponent with a bit more division relevancy right now. Now, I'm not taking anything away from Melvin, very talented fight, but the optics of it are he's still 44 years old, hasn't really had a big time win in a long time. And even if you say, his win against his fight against Pedro Carvalho, the first fight he should have won, that was still even 4 years ago. Were you also surprised on some level you were matched up with him? Were you expected someone like Phil Davis maybe instead, or even a Lyoto Machida, something like that?
I mean, I thought I was going to get either the winner of the Lyoto Machida and Phil Davis or the loser, one of the two. But then I saw the interview with Phil Davis was saying, yeah, Corey deserves a veteran welcome, but I'm not going to fight him. I'll only fight him if Nemkov is not available.
Yeah.
I saw everything. I knew, that's not going to happen. I thought maybe the Machida would be next, and I never heard nothing on that. And it was the Nemkov. They signed Nemkov's brother or whatever, and that was a possibility, like a name. And that didn't happen. And at that point, it was kind of like, I don't really know who they're going to give me. There's a lot of young kids in Bellator. There's a lot of young up-and-coming kids there, but I doubt there's going to give me any of those kids to stop their growth. That's the last thing you want to do. Like the UFC, they do it. They get hot and then throw him to a vet.
Yeah.
Tyson Pedro, look at him. They pushed him, he lost. Now you don't hear about him anymore. Then he got hurt, and I don't even know if he's there anymore. And I know Bellator, they're not going to do that. They let their kids build up to get comfortable, to get that feeling of the cage and all that before they get a big vet. So it's like, who else do they give me? So I know a lot of the young kids, but all the vets, Bader just lost. He's going to go back and defend his heavyweight title. But I know he said if he won, he wanted to fight me next. Nemkov said he think I should get a win before I go. So it's kind of like I really didn't know who they had else as a vet. Kel Sonnen had retired. There was no other vet names up there that I could have got. And I wasn't even aware that Melvin Manhoef was there until his name came across the table.
I expect you to be a very heavy betting favorite for this fight. For those folks that feel you are just much more dangerous, much more relevant top fighter today than Melvin because of his age and stuff like that, how would you sell them on not underestimating him, wanting to see this main event fight at UFC, at Bellator 251? What keeps you up at night worrying about Melvin, if anything at all does?
Every fighter has a puncher's chance, and we all know Melvin has a heavy punch.
Yeah. Yep.
That's why it only takes one mistake. I could slip on a takedown and slip right into his hook. I could shoot too early and land into an uppercut or a knee. He could throw a head kick and I can have my hands down and hit me on the chin or the back of the head. Anything can happen, you know. In a lot of fights, I've been heavy betting favorite. I've been a heavy underdog. And I've been out there, if you know me, is a possibility that Corey gets caught because Corey gets going super fast. But the plan this time is to go out there and demonstrate my full martial arts abilities and be on point from start to finish. And at that, being Melvin, a dangerous fighter, I have to be on point, eyes on alert at all times because he can spring forward with a hook cross, and that cross comes so fast. If you blink, you miss. If you blink, you miss the slip, and it's over. You're on your ass or you're out cold. He's a little guy, but he can bring that leg up high, like out of nowhere. You don't expect it, but he bounced, and that right head kick can come hit you, and you don't even know it. So, like I said, I know I don't like that. I know the fact I'm going to be a heavy favorite. I know a lot of people was writing Melvin off, but I hate that because it was the same thing in the Jan Blachowicz fight. There was nobody that said Jan could win, and like you see, anything can happen. You know, it's the mixed martial arts. Everybody has a puncher's chance. Freak accidents happen. Chris Weidman, Anderson Silva, both fights. The one he caught Anderson with a little clip, put him out, and the next one, Anderson broke his leg. You know, nobody expected Chris to win either of those. Yeah. But it's martial arts. Anything can happen, and that's my mindset going into this fight. I know a lot of people who I was fighting like, 44, 5'8", 71-inch reach. Oh, you're going to kill this guy. And everybody was laughing about it, but I never smirked or joked about it. I told all my coaches, we're going into this like it's a championship fight in any organization. We're going this serious. We're going to keep the game plan 100%. There's no joking around this whole camp because anything can happen, and we know that. And I'm that serious. So whether that's going to go out there and make me perform better than ever, or it might put too much pressure and freeze up. It might help Melvin. You don't know, but I know I'm prepared. When that bell rings, I'm prepared to go 15 minutes wherever he want to take it, wherever I got to take it, striking, kickboxing, takedowns, jiu-jitsu, whatever it is, I'm ready for it all.
When you did first sign there with Bellator, I read about you having a sit down with Scott Coke or something you never got with Dana White. Was there ever conversations about getting a title shot, especially when Jan ended up going into the title fight, winning the title fight, your losses coming off the guy who's now the UFC champion? Was there ever a conversation about that? Or when Vadim did mention, like you said, oh, you need to get a win first, that it was out of the question then?
I've never had that conversation with Scott or Mike, you know, because that's not my business. That's their business. My job, I signed a contract to come there and fight. I know how much I'm making per fight, whatever fight it is. And like I told my manager at the time, the amount of money I'm making right now, I'm in no place, shape, or form to put up a fuss that I should get a title fight. Either like a title fight or this fight. Either way, I'm making good money. Yeah. And now I'm actually getting paid to do my job. I feel like it's worth getting up every morning and training super hard to go out there and earn every penny.
Now, the Bellator is interesting in terms of the heavyweight division. They have some older established names, though. A few of them just actually got released, but they have some rising guys. You have a guy like Ryan Bader is the heavyweight champion. I talked to Jan Blachowicz a few weeks ago. He talked about eventually he'd like to move to heavyweight. Is that a thought, especially because of the heavyweight division in Bellator is more wide open at some point? Like, I don't feel like cutting anymore. Is that a possibility you might be interested in a heavyweight fight at some point in Bellator?
Yeah, that was a plan in the UFC. I just want to get the light heavyweight belt first. And once I get the belt, no problem moving up. You know, if I can get both belts, why not? I fought heavyweight until I made it to the UFC. The Ultimate Fighter was the first time I ever made 205. And once I made it, my coach was like, well, we're here now. Then I made it to the show. And then I won the show. And I was like, well, now you're really here. So I guess you're going to stay, huh? And even now, before getting into camp, I walk around like 240, 238. Wow. So it's not like, and I'm never fat. I always have abs. I'm always working out. So it's not like it's a sloppy 240. I can go to the gym at 240 and still spar 6 rounds, no problem, with the same cardio I have on fight day. So after I prove my point in my weight class, yes, I'm more than welcome to go up to 265 and get that belt as well and challenge those guys all the way until I'm time to leave.